Everyone experiences a form of social anxiety, some more intense than others. Some call it being shy, and some experience extreme fear in social settings. Social anxiety disorder is the extreme fear of being watched and judged by others in social or performance situations. Social anxiety disorder affects about 15 million American adults. It usually begins at a young age when someone feels they are being judged for how they look and feel terrified they will humiliate or embarrass themselves. Most do not realize there is a difference between shyness and social anxiety.
Well, when I hear shyness, I just maybe think of somebody who's quiet around a lot of people, or, like in class, they might kind of, not say anything. Like if, there's discussions, they'll stay really quiet. And when I think of social anxiety, I kind of think of people, in large settings that, just get anxious around a lot of people, and, they get uncomfortable with large settings and groups of people, and they just kind of don't know how to handle it, maybe don't know how to talk to people.
Well, I am an RA, so there are even a bunch of people in the RA position where we're supposed to be these, outgoing individuals, but there are some introverts within this position. So, yeah, I have noticed quite a few shy people in my life.
The definition of social anxiety or social phobia is that the person is afraid of rejection or humiliation or embarrassment in a social situation.
I dread the notion of being rejected. And while rejection is someone that everybody fears at some point in their life, it really hits me hard. With people with social anxiety disorder, it hits them really hard. The fear of rejection is a lot worse.
I actually used to suffer from social anxiety when I was younger, where I would always be involved, but I would try to take the back seat. I would try to do a lot of behind the scenes things because I didn't like to be in the forefront.
I subconsciously take myself back to that place of being in the courtroom and everybody's looking at me. Even when nobody's looking at me, and I can look around and see that nobody's looking at me, I still feel like everybody's looking at me, everybody's judging me and stuff like that. And it's just, you get used to it. Headphones help me take out of it because I love music. So I start analyzing the music. What instruments do I hear? Ask myself little questions like that to take myself mentally out of the situation and go where I need to be able to handle it.
Growing up, I was not with the greatest father figure, I guess you could put it. So I think that may have been part of the whole source thing, because I felt like I had to keep things to myself.
An individual who has an anxiety disorder is that the anxiety or the nervousness has become so severe that it interferes with their daily functioning. So an individual who is shy, that becomes sort of accustomed to their personality, and they have some difficulties, but they're able to still interact with others, build relationships, but it's just a little bit of a reluctance. Whereas a person who has a social anxiety disorder, very often they will avoid social situations.
I believe my social anxiety began in high school. In high school, I wasn't really invited to anything, no birthday parties, no parties in general. I never really hung out with anyone. I only had a couple friends that I actually hung out with.
A lot of times, yeah, I did have it a lot at school. If I didn't have any classes with at least one friend, always felt like people would judge me, like I was being criticized and put under pressure. Now, last few years, it'd be around pretty much anybody. It was really bad. It's gotten a lot better since I've kind of put myself around people I knew that cared for me. And I just would want to stay in my room away from everybody. I'd go to work, I'd kind of hide and just do what I have to do and just avoid people.
Some of the symptoms I've experienced with social phobia is fear and extreme nervousness. if I go to a house party or a bar, my first reaction is, what am I doing here? I become a wallflower, I sit on the sidelines.
Just knowing myself, I know that there are a lot of things that I can do when I am talking, when I'm helping other people, that kind of take the pressure off of me. For example, like right now, I'm twitching. My knees are moving, my hands are moving, I'm keeping myself kinesthetically motion. So that kind of helps just relieve some of the stress that can possibly build up while I'm talking. Just thinking about what I'm going to say before I open my mouth and say it, that helps out a lot, because oftentimes when you start talking, you can start to ramble, and that kind of adds on to the fact that you're starting to get even more antsy, your heart rate speeds up even more. So just knowing who you are kind of helps what kind of improvements you can make.
I noticed that my anxiety turns into asthma attacks because I stopped breathing. And my boyfriend actually noticed it through me. I stopped breathing and I didn't realize that I was stopped breathing. I would just go and then I'm yawning and I can't breathe, and I didn't fully understand why. After doing research on both of our parts, we found out what was going on, and we found out how we could fix it and adjust to it.
Those are all symptoms of anxiety. An individual that becomes so nervous and anxious that they're shaking. Sometimes it affects the way that they breathe, so they'll feel like they can't breathe. Sometimes it will result in what's referred to as a panic attack.
Social anxiety can interfere significantly with tasks such as daily routines, occupational performances, or social life, including friendship and romantic relationships. People with social anxiety can feel helpless with their symptoms, but there are ways to overcome it.
I work in Sherman, so I'm constantly having to deal with people. I work in human resources, so I'm constantly dealing with people, and I think I can handle it better there because I've gotten so used to my position. I know my role at my job and all of that, I can handle that. But having to go back and forth with walking through the hallways, talking to other professors, and seeing the president of the campus regularly makes it awkward and uncomfortable, but you learn to get used to it. Like me, I constantly have my headphones with me. There's always a pair in my book bag, and then I usually wear a pair around my neck. So if one pair stops working, I could go to another pair. Anything to just avoid that stress.
You're just walking around campus, you'll see I would give like 75–80% of our campus walks around with headphones in to and from class. And whether you're listening to music or not, it's more so because you don't want to have that conversation. Whether it's because you have some type of social anxiety, or maybe you just don't really want to talk to or meet different types of people. I just think that college is supposed to prepare us for our life when we're done. And having those conversations, being able to talk to people, is something that prepares you for life. So while I think it is more common, you'll see people with headphones in, I still think that it's important that we able to do both, be able to talk to people that you don't know and be able to communicate yourself freely, and then just know when is the right and wrong times to have those conversations.
There is hope for those who experience social anxiety. Because there are many forms of social anxiety, there are different approaches to treating it.
Now I've been coached by like my managers at work on like how to talk to people. Other than that, I haven't really reached out to anybody or anything.
I've had one-on-one interviews about it, but I feel that those kinds of treatments work better depending on what kind of anxiety that you have. Because like I said earlier, there are different levels of social anxiety. So for the most extreme cases, then you may have to go with medicine.
There are common ways of treating anxiety disorders that try to address the symptoms, some more behavioral related approaches, like teaching relaxation exercises. We have a group here that we run every semester to teach students how to physically relax. Another very common treatment approach is called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps an individual to take a look at what are they saying to themselves, and is it accurate? Most of all, often it's going to be distorted. We help an individual change the way they think in order to alter the way they feel. A third way then is with medications that can help with the physiological symptoms. So a person who has an anxiety disorder may be treated with a medication to help reduce the anxiety.
I have definitely looked for outlets to help me become relieved of this fear of judgment, this social phobia. And I really don't know what I would do without my therapist. My therapist has been a constant in my life. She has helped me in many ways, more ways than I can imagine. She's helped me with everything. She's helped me with depression, with suicide, with my social phobia, all of that. And really, I believe, when you're in a situation like I'm in, you really need someone to talk to. Whether it be a therapist, whether it be a family member, friends, that's really what you need to do.
I've gotten a lot more comfortable with myself. I don't care what people think when they look at me anymore. Like, if I'm wearing something, I'm not embarrassed of it. If they're wearing something totally different.
I guess I never really, before this, I've never really even heard of social anxiety or really, kind of understood what it is. I think people, like you've said, people can kind of get confused between shyness and social anxiety. I guess, if you're sitting in class and someone's being really quiet, you may just take it as, oh, they're just really shy and quiet, when really they could be suffering from something else. So yeah, I think I'm a little bit more aware of it.
If their nervousness, if their anxiety is getting in the way and making their life miserable, if they're unhappy with all of the things that they're having to avoid doing, that help is there, treatment is very possible. They need to take the first step by calling, seeing a doctor, seeing a mental health counselor, going to see somebody to begin the process.
If you or someone you know suffers from social anxiety, there are many people who feel the same way as you. If you want to overcome social anxiety, consider reaching out for help. Whether it's a friend from work, school, clubs, or a counselor, you can learn to overcome your fears. For those who do not have social anxiety, it happens to more people than you may think. Just because someone may be quiet in the workplace, school, club, and more, it may be more than just being shy. They may have social anxiety.